Sports teams, NFL in general. My name is Demetrius. Shout out, as always, to the super producer extraordinaire, Mr. Mike Ward. We come to you week 15 of the 2025 NFL season. Our Gridiron Heroes are out in Los Angeles to take on the Rams. I think the Rams came in 9-3, maybe 10-3, something like that. Widely considered the best team in the NFC, one of the best teams in the league. It was another opportunity, a litmus test for the Lions to show the league where they stand, how they match up against the quote unquote big boys, the really good teams, the kinds of teams you will have to beat in the playoffs. And they did not do that. Well, they did it for a half and then, took the third quarter off. And what happens is what happens. The final score is 41-34 Rams. It didn't feel that close in the second half. I think I always do this thing where I talk about, you can tell who the better team is. And in the first half, I didn't mind what I saw in the first half, but I knew even then this is not going to be enough, right? So like I said, this was another opportunity for the Lions to come out, show they belonged with the big boys. They didn't do it, right? Right. There's a lot of things, right? I didn't feel that bad because as we did the preseason podcast and we predicted wins and losses, I think Kenny and I originally set around 13-4. We were open to the idea that 12-5 is more realistic. And then I think they got off to like a 4-1 start. We started talking about 14-3, but we always wavered with a plus or minus kind of one game idea, somewhere around 13-4. But when we looked at those games on the schedule, we knew they were playing a first place schedule. So we knew, we looked at it then and said, the Cincinnati game is going to be tough, right? Cincinnati, we thought was a good team. Nobody knew Burrow was going to get hurt. We thought the Baltimore game was going to be a hard game. We thought Dallas would be hard. We thought maybe the Commanders game would be difficult. We knew Green Bay, Kansas City, Philadelphia, Rams. We knew all that, right? So we knew there were tough games on the schedule. So not to make an excuse, because there really isn't. I predicted them to lose this game before the season started. I woke up this morning, texted the guys and said, I don't feel good. I don't feel good today, right? But it is the kind of game that if I want to come on this podcast and tell y'all our team, I don't even know if you're a Lions fan. There's some people on here who are not. What's up, Fred? I see Freddie. Freddie is not a Lions fan. He's a good friend of mine. But if I want to come on here and tell y'all that this team has an opportunity to do something significant in the playoffs, I can't do that yet. This was the kind of game that would have armed me with that. A win in Philadelphia would have given me the ability to do that. Winning either Green Bay game would have given me the ability to do that. I can't do that now. But what I can do is say it's not over, right? Kenny used the term we cooked. Okay. I don't think so. Statistically, every 11-6 team in the current NFL format, if you go 11-6, you make the playoffs, right? Now, okay, we got to run the table, right? There's a really good Bears team waiting for us in 3 weeks, and all that's truth. But we only have 6 losses. They only have 6 losses, and they can still do that, right? So perspective is still a thing, right? Like I said, I didn't feel good this morning. I'm sure I predicted them to lose this road game against a really good team back at the beginning. But the reality is that an 11-6 team makes the playoff. And that's the point, right? Making the playoff. I think there was some, winning the division and whether or not it didn't matter last year. Winning the division didn't mean anything once the Commanders came in, right? The thing is, what you have to take away is there's holes. We know there's holes, and they looked like there were holes. My feeling is that your good player still played well. I think the quarterback had a really good game. Not going to do a whole thing. He was 25. Where was his stats? I got his stats. Sorry. 25 or 4. Now, half of those 16 incompletions were actually good football plays. Throw the ball away when you have to, avoid the sack. If nobody's open, nobody's open. He will dirt the ball at the feet of a running back. He will make good football plays. And I got text messages saying, Jared Goff drives me crazy. Right? I saw him throw a touchdown to St. Brown. That was insane. I saw him throw a touchdown to J-Mo. That was insane. Another deep ball to J-Mo that I think J-Mo should have caught. So my short version of Goff is his numbers are his numbers. I don't even talk feelings about Goff anymore. Andy ruined that for you guys. So if you guys want to get mad at me, blame Andy. He called me after a podcast and we had a nice long conversation. I'm not doing it. Jared Goff's numbers speak for themselves. He's got 3 years of football that tells me what he is. And so that's, it wasn't the quarterback. Like your potentially best player in St. Brown certainly played well. Those are insane numbers on what is not even 100% good ankle. St. Brown played well. I think he just makes plays. I'm starting to get to a point where, is there a better receiver in the league? I know we like Justin Jefferson. I know Jamar Chase makes plays. Who am I missing? Is there a better receiver in the league? He's a slot guy. He's small, so people don't want to give him credit. But is there really, like, on 3rd or 4th down when you need somebody to run a route, to make a play, to catch the ball? I don't know if he's not. I mean, he's there, right? And then you got this kid who's just starting to just be a difference maker. J-Mo's a difference maker. Anybody who's mad about J-Mo, they don't get what he does, what he brings. So guys played well today. And this one is hard for me to watch and pick apart because sometimes in the NFL, not even sometimes, a lot, 2 or 3 plays can make a game, can totally make a game. Sometimes they can shift momentum. Sometimes they can result in points. I think that the fact that I don't have a banner to put up around Jahmyr Gibbs is the problem, right? They only had 70 yards rushing today, and they gave up over 500 yards of offense. So the format, obviously, I jump right in. Still the same. I'm giving you sort of my high level feeling about what I think it'll take to make the playoffs. You can still go 11-6. You should handle your business against Pittsburgh. You should go to Minnesota with a receipt and pay them back. And then the Chicago game should be very meaningful, right? That's the way it should go. I think right now, when you couldn't run the ball today, I've said 100 times, maybe, the Detroit Lions are a running team. Everything they do, I put up Goff stats, I put up St. Brown stats. The Detroit Lions are a running team. Everything they do comes off the run. They have to be able to run to do everything else. Now, so mindset-wise, what were they thinking today? Why did they only have 70 yards rushing? I'm going to start doing a thing where I talk about Dan Campbell in different ways. I'm going to talk about the play caller, and then I'm going to talk about the head coach. 2 jobs, 2 different jobs, maybe different mentalities, different approaches. And I will say to you, I don't think the play caller had a great day, despite the fact that the Lions had over 400 yards of offense, scored 34 points. There were moments and times and drives and down and distance situations where I did not love play calling. I don't think the play caller had a great day. And somebody jumped right in and said, we missed Ben Johnson. I don't do Ben Johnson talk anymore. Sorry. I just don't. Ben Johnson's gone, whatever. Don't really give a shit about Ben Johnson. We have a good play caller. Don't get me wrong. They put up 44 against Dallas. I think they put up 44 against the Commanders. They put up 34 today. I'm not saying the offense is bad or the play calling is always bad. Situationally, I don't often understand some of the play calling. Like, what are we trying to do? But today, honestly, I'm not going to bitch about the play caller or the quarterback. I'm not going to let anybody bitch about St. Brown or J-Mo. I'm going to talk about the defense. And I'm not going to even blast Kelvin Shepherd. I'm a Kelvin Shepherd guy. With what he has been doing a great job. But here's the reality. They gave up over 500 yards today. You can't, you're on the road against a really good team, so I get it. But the chunk plays, right? Exactly. Andy just hit a great point. They figured something out probably at halftime because there was this consistent effort to hit us in the middle of the zone defense. And I think we have to play when you have no Kirby, when you have no Branch, no TA, despite the fact Kenny hates his guts. I think Terry Arnold was a good corner. Sorry, Kenny, couldn't help myself. They played a lot of zone today, and every time the Lions defense had a chance to make a play and get off the field, a lot of times it was third, sometimes it was fourth down. The Rams went to the middle of the zone, 12, 15-yard end cuts, and they were insanely successful. It was Puka was wide open, Devontae was open, or they hit him on the sidelines. And when guys are just wide open, it is either a scheme, breakdown. Stafford actually missed his tight end for a wide open touchdown early in the game, which was schematic. That was a breakdown. Anzalone passed him off thinking somebody else was back there, and he wasn't. Those are things that, in my opinion, are a result of young players, backup players who are backups for a reason, not communicating, missing assignments, or just not being good. Penalties aren't penalties because guys are stupid or because guys don't know their penalties. Defensive holding, pass interference, those are penalties because you get beat and the other guy's better, right? So, yeah, if a guy's going to get by me and walk into the end zone, I'm going to grab him. I'm going to take that holding penalty. Now, I could do 20 minutes on penalties today. A lot of self-inflicted wounds from the very beginning. Penei Sewell's holding penalty on the very first drive, in my opinion, cost us 7 points. A touchdown instead of a missed field goal there, different. I don't know if Hutch still gets an interception and then we're up 14-0 in the blink of an eye. I know that it doesn't result in a missed field goal because it would have been, I think it would have been first and goal around the 7 or 8 yard line. Those plays are huge. That's a first quarter play that could have been monumental in that game. In my opinion, it was. But high level, I'm going to talk more detail about the game. High level, it's this. The Lions have had 5 opportunities this year to show us, show the league, show everybody that they belong in a certain kind of conversation. And in those 5 games, they're 1-4. They hung the 50 on the Bears early. Bears weren't the Bears they are now, but I'm counting that. I'm not going to count Baltimore for the same reason. That was a great win, but Baltimore isn't what we thought they were. I think we might have believed the Cincinnati game would have been a big win on the road in Cincinnati, but Joe Burrow wasn't there. I can't count that. The reality is both Green Bay games, Philadelphia and today, were losses against big boys. The 50 you hung on the Bears early, I'll count that because the Bears turned out are actually good. But 5 games against big boys, I didn't count Kansas City, but 5 games against big boys, you're 1-4. In every one of those games, I could probably go back and say, here are the 3 plays that changed everything. Because it's generally 1, 2, 3 plays, right? But that's the reality. It's not what I like. It's not what I want to be talking about on this podcast right now. But that's the reality, is that our team has had a chance, 5 chances, to show everybody. Yeah, we are that good. We are that team. But no, the opener was the most beat downish, if that's a word. They were competitive against Philly, 2 or 3 plays. Thanksgiving, 2 or 3 plays. Today, 2 or 3 plays, right? But the reality is you are, as Denny Green once said, rest in peace, Denny Green. They are who we thought they were, right? And I could go and do a whole injury thing, but I'm not, because everybody's got injuries, right? Mahomes and Micah both tore ACLs today. Everybody's got injuries. Can't do it. I believe that we have backup players. We will continue to play backup players. TA's not coming back. That makes Kenny happy, but not everybody else. Brian Branch is not coming back. I don't think Sam Laporte is coming back. And these are impactful players, but everybody's got a list like that. So set that aside. We're not doing it. Thanksgiving was winnable. Philly was winnable. Today was winnable. if you get off the field on one of those third or fourth downs, if you don't go 3-and-out, 3-and-out, 3-and-out to start the third quarter, the game's winnable. I am of the opinion there's no great team in the National Football League. Denver can make a case. I think New England thought they could make a case until Buffalo gave them the business today. Packers lost today. This Rams team is beatable. If that game's in Detroit, I think the Lions win. But here's the deal. If you get them again, the game's in LA. Right? So you gotta to win in the playoffs, you're gonna have to go on the road and beat a good team. And the reality is the Lions have not done that this year. If you don't count Baltimore, and I won't argue with you if you don't, they have not went on the road and beaten a good team this year. They just haven't. And that's concerning. That's concerning. But that's where we are. Right now, you got to put this game where it belongs. You lost a shootout to a really good team, one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the league on the road. That's the positive way to look at it. That's the cornbread and Kool-Aid way to look at this game. You regroup and go from there, right? Now you got to win out, by the way. Right. Here's the bad news. Now you got to win out if you're going to do that. And winning out means at the end of the year, you got to go on the road and beat a good team. That's it. You got to go on the road and beat a good team now because Chicago is legit. We can't say they're not. And if you make the playoffs, you're going to have to go on the road to beat good teams anyway. So there's one more opportunity prior to the playoffs. The final high-level piece is simply if you get some guys back, and again, I should have reviewed that list, maybe you get better. But when your quarterback plays pretty well, and he did today, when your best receiver played exceptionally well, made every catch, made every play, when J-Mo did what J-Mo did, and you still lost, right? And you could say, oh, they had the ball with a chance to tie as the clock expired. I guess you could say that. Of the games we talked about, this one, after the third quarter, I believe Kenny's words were, we suck. And I think Bear said, we're done. So the reality is this. To do anything meaningful, they're going to have to go on the road to beat a good team, and they have not demonstrated the ability to do that. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about the game itself, because I thought there was a couple of really interesting points, really interesting moments, really interesting things. Again, didn't love all the play calling, but the head coach, to me, is missing things, probably because he's doing the play calling. I didn't have a problem with the one and only fourth. I think we went for 1 4th down until we had to, right? But first drive, the Sewell holding penalty. Unnecessary, by the way. That dude wasn't going to make the tackle. That's a self-inflicted wound. That puts you back, and then you end up missing a field goal. Hutch makes a great play, next possession, big time Jared Goff throw to St. Brown. And you're looking like, okay, this is the shootout we thought. So, but then late in the first, in a 7-0 game, Lions leading, 14 or 15 play drive, the Rams convert 2 4th downs. I start to get worried. Wait a minute, we can't get off the field on 3rd or 4th down. Middle of the second quarter, 10-7 game, holding in the end zone. I think it was Anzalone. And I'm starting to think, okay, we're doing the things that bad teams do. We're losing this game. I don't know that they're necessarily better. I still say that as we sit now. I don't know if the Rams are necessarily a better team. And if that game is in Detroit, might be a different outcome. But if we get them again, that game won't be in Detroit. The game will be in LA, right? So you're starting to see the things that cause you to lose games. Penalties, inability for the defense to get off the field on 3rd down. As the second quarter moved on, I thought, okay, they're playing well enough that they could still win this game, but they need to play, still need to play better, right? And they get a big defensive stop late in the half, convert a huge 4th down and then Goff to J-Mo. And I'm like, okay, I like where we are. Looks like it's going to be 24-14 at halftime. And then we give up a big chunk play to Puka Nacua, and they get a field goal. And that was when I said, damn, right? We don't have the ability, and it's been a while since I've told the story, but I'm going to use the term again, put your foot on their neck. And it comes from a good friend of mine named Chris, who may or may not be listening. We went to a Lions-Packers game. Chris is, full disclosure, from Wisconsin, Green Bay fan. And we talked about a mentality that you play with when you're up and you have an opportunity to put your foot on somebody's neck. We have not demonstrated that. We hang around, we stay in games, we fight and grit. But sometimes, and last year there were a couple. I think Indianapolis got it, Jacksonville got it, a couple others. I think we might have gave that work to the Bears earlier this year, but there are opportunities. And I thought at 24-14, there was an opportunity. If you stop them from scoring at the end of the half, you come out in the third and put together one really good defensive stand, crowd's still not in the game. Maybe they get discouraged. But what you can do, because to that point, they had not stopped the Lions offense. The Lions had stopped themselves. They had not stopped the Lions offense. That's the momentum thing. Hard to quantify, hard to pinpoint what it is, but you know it when you see it. And I knew they felt good about getting that field goal at the end of the half, especially after the chunk play to Puka. And then they came out in the second half and the entire game flipped. And that was tough to watch. And it going in even up 24-17 leading felt more like you were down, right? And when they came out in the second half and continued to go for fourth downs and convert fourth downs, awesome. They're moving down. And then there was a moment where I felt good again, because you make a big play, Roy Lopez gets a sack, and then they had trouble with their snap, and you hold them to a field goal. So you're still up 24-20, but it doesn't feel like it, right? It feels like they're the better team, even though you have more points. And the defense still is struggling to get off the field on third and fourth down. And then they get the touchdown that puts them up 27-24. I'm going to make this short and sweet. Not only was that not a touchdown, it wasn't a catch. Nobody gives a damn. Nobody's going to say anything, probably but me. And it's going to sound like sour grapes. I truly believe there was an angle, and I almost feel like Fox did their best not to show the angle, but I think he didn't have control. And when he landed, the ball moved. He landed at the 1, first of all. But I think when his body hit the ground, the ball moved. So not only do I think it wasn't a touchdown, I don't even think it was a catch. But set that aside. We'll argue another day, Andy. I don't think it was a catch or a touchdown. They go up 27-24, and I know what I see now. I'm looking at the next possession, and the left guard. I don't generally pick on an individual player, and it's not this guy's fault. He's doing what he can. But Tristan Colon got beat on back-to-back plays. One of them, Goff stayed in there, took the shot, and delivered a dime, right? And I think J-Mo should have caught it. That's it. You got to lay out for it. If the Herman Moore rule of wide receivers is if both your hands touch the football, you're supposed to make the catch. And that's my all-time favorite player, even though he didn't show up on the podcast like he said. That's the rule. J-Mo should have caught that pass. And then they came back and did the same thing that I saw Andy mentioned earlier. Offensively, they're just running in cuts to the middle of the field in our zone. And then I blinked and it was 34-24, and we're early in the fourth quarter. We've gone 3 and out, 3 straight possessions, and I know what's happening now, right? And so then you just kind of sit and you want something to change. You want something to be different, but you don't feel it. And then there was a drive where I absolutely hated the play calling, and Art and I exchanged a couple messages. The play calling was horrific. It was. Now, they end up getting a field goal, so now it's 34-27, but you know you're not going to get a defensive stop, right? You know in your heart, Puka's going to catch something for 15, or this guy Ferguson with the neck band is going to, and you know it because you've been watching the game. So it was a game where ultimately there were some self-inflicted wounds. There were a couple of plays, not the ref one that Andy and I disagree on, but just opportunities to get off the field on third and fourth down that you couldn't. Penalties that extended drives and hurt you. A couple of drop passes. Gibbs dropped the pass that had potential, and the one that I thought J-Mo should catch. But at the end of the day, I thought overall what I felt was another really good team and the Lions didn't play well enough to get it done. That's what the game felt like from very early in the third quarter. I felt good at halftime, a little trepidation because, quite frankly, I thought they had left 10 points out there and they should have been up bigger, but good enough that they're up 7, they're in the game. And to that point, the Rams hadn't stopped them. And then offensive line play, penalties, those 3 straight 3-and-outs were the game. That's when the game changed. So it is what it is. We leave that game there. We've broken it down. We can agree or disagree on a catch. We can agree or disagree on play calling. And if you want to disagree that our quarterback played well, then you're just wrong. So let's do 3 questions. All right, let's go. What do we got? Is it simply that the Lions are not good enough? Wow, right out. Good enough for what is the question? Good enough to win the Super Bowl? No, they're not good enough to win the Super Bowl. As we sit here Sunday, December 14th, they're not good enough to win the Super Bowl. I don't think I have a history of coming on here and saying dumb shit, saying dumb things or things that aren't true. That's not how we get down. No, they're not. Not right now, right? They're just not good enough. And I told you why. They've had 5 opportunities to show us, and they're 1-4 in those 5 games. The thing is, handle your business at home against Pittsburgh, go take care of Minnesota like you should, and you get to go to Chicago and you get another shot, right? But right now, I don't know that anybody gives me grief for saying they're not good enough. I think the league is interesting in that I don't think there's any great teams. Like I said, I think Denver can make a case. But if I worry about Denver, it'll be in the Super Bowl, and I don't care. I think that we played Philly close enough. I think Philly's great. I think the Rams are good, better than us, obviously. But there's no reason for me to say there's any team in the NFC that I just think is unbeatable. I think Seattle won, but struggled against a Phillip Rivers-led Colts team and barely won that. I think Green Bay, if Micah's done, and it sounds like that changes who Green Bay is. I think the Bears might have the best case, honestly, and we get to play them, so we'll find out. I think the Bears have won some tight games. The Bears have beaten some bets, but they're winning the games. You just can't argue that thing, right? You can say what you want about how they look or how you feel about them, but the numbers that matter are wins and losses. I don't think there's anybody that on a good day forget that. Never mind. The defense just ain't good enough. The defense just isn't good enough. I don't injuries are real. I got to be honest, missing 2 safeties, maybe the best safety tandem in the league. Just so many communication errors on the back end. All due respect to the Rock Ya-Sin and Hallett and these guys who are out there doing their best. The defense right now isn't good enough. I don't know that they're good enough to beat Philadelphia. I don't know if they're good enough to beat Seattle. We saw today they weren't good enough to beat the Rams. I don't know. Is Mahogany going to come back? That'd help. That's help. I got to be honest. I'm not happy with DJ Reed right now. It's unfortunate, but injuries happen. Every team goes through them. Shep could come up with some scheme changes that allow them to play better. I don't know. Short answer to your question right now, this team, as it's constructed right now, there are 3 or 4 teams in the NFC that I would find it tough to believe we could go on the road and beat them. Right now, things change. Right now, is right now. All you got to do is go home and beat Pittsburgh right now. That's all you got to do. All right, next. What was the turning point in today's game? I think, oddly, it's the field goal the Rams got to end the half. I think at that point, they're down 10. They hadn't stopped the Lions all day. And it was getting interesting to a point that I think they would have started to maybe think differently. I think that's huge. I want to talk about that play that wasn't really a touchdown, but I think it was too late by then. And I'll give Andy his credit. Rams probably would have scored on that drive anyway. At that point, I don't think it mattered. Stafford and McVay had figured out how to pick apart our zone. And they came out in the second half with a whole different vibe. They clearly made some adjustments, identified something they knew we couldn't stop, and just did a really good job, right? That third quarter drive where JMO didn't come up with the big catch, Cologne gets beat for a sack. That drive died immediately. And again, not picking on Cologne, but getting beat on back-to-back plays like that, the sack amped up the crowd. Could have been there. I'm going to stick with my original answer of the field goal just before half. I think the vibe, the momentum, the vibe in the stadium and the momentum was sitting in a certain place, and that field goal changed it. All right, one more. Why couldn't they get the running game going? You know what? That's a great question. I touched on it a little bit. So I don't know. I wouldn't mind hearing some of you guys tell me what you think. Did they try enough? Did they try at the right times? Was there a case to be made to try and get Gibbs the ball on the edge? I don't think I saw that, right? Now, there are different ways to get the ball to your playmakers on the edge. Quick screens to St. Brown and JMO, they were happening. They tried to get Gibbs in the flat, but did they put enough effort legitimately into trying to run the football today? That's a good question. I don't generally rewatch games. I'm certainly not going to rewatch this one. I think Andy makes a great point. Demo should have touched the football more. I'll leave it at that. But again, I said a couple of times, I did not love the play calling today, like throughout the game. At different points of the game, I really disliked the play calling. At moments, like really sort of down and distance things. There was a red zone possession where I don't remember exactly what it was. I agree with Andy. Demo should have saw the ball more. I don't know. Truthfully, what I think is this. I think they came in today. I think all week they said it's going to be a shootout. They're probably going to put up 30 plus points. 30. We got to score. This isn't a game to try and. But then again, all their runs were like between the tackles, where you're not as strong as you once were. That's a great question, man. I don't know. It's I will only say I would have liked to have seen more attempts. They got a toss play. They ran a misdirection toss. It didn't work. Maybe more toss. Maybe we just don't know that the Rams have speed at linebacker, and that's not how you attack their 3-4. They play a 3-4. And maybe that's just not the smartest way to attack a 3-4. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and suggest that might be it. But at different moments, I struggle with the play calling, and I land with Andy in terms of Demo. I think Demo brings something different, forces the defense to think and react differently. He's just a different kind of runner. So I'm going to go with that. All right, I'm going to do one more. Nah. All right, let's just wrap this up talking about what's next. So at the end of the day, playoffs are still a very distinct possibility. As much as Kenny thinks we're cooked or done and we suck, and others, I'm sure, after the game and right now feel some kind of emotion, I still go back to at the beginning of the year, did you think you knew the Rams were a good team? Did you think they were going to go to LA and win week 15? Because I didn't. When you woke up this morning, knowing what you know about our injury situation, how well the Rams are playing, because I don't know if I mentioned it, the Rams are really good. They might be the best team in the NFC. Did you think this morning? Because I didn't. Because I sent text messages that I didn't think we were going to win today. So if that's the case, what's there to be upset about? What's there to really be? Now you've gotten yourself into a position where, with Micah's injury, we don't know what the Packers are going to be. They lost today, and they lost. They lost Micah, and they lost a game. But the Bears won again. Seattle stole one from Indy. If you're thinking about that stuff, I'm really not. I know for sure 11-6 teams in this format are in the playoffs. No 11-6 team in the current format did make the playoffs. So now we're not division and that kind of shit. That's pipe dream stuff, right? Now we're just like play better, and get in, and then see what happens. Because last year's 1 seed got their asses handed to them at home by the Commanders. I saw that game, right? So it's not like this kind of stuff can't happen. Yeah, the reality is no matter what, you got to go on the road and beat a good team. You're going to have to do it week 18, whatever you think of Minnesota. Where's Minnesota plays tonight or whenever Minnesota plays? I think they play, I don't know, Minnesota might be playing right now. I don't really care that much. Right now it's about Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh plays tomorrow night, I think. So we'll get them on short rest at home. Just go handle your business. Right? And if you play better, there's no team that's unbeatable. The Rams might be the best the NFC's got to offer, and you played one half of football and only lost by a touchdown. So that's the silver lining, cornbread and Kool-Aid takeaway. Pittsburgh is hosting Miami, I think, tomorrow night. So they come into our place on short day. They're 7-6 anyway. I think we're better, but you still got to go play, right? Then there's always the joy of hanging another loss on the asshole that is Aaron Rodgers. So that ought to be awesome. And then you take care of everything else later. I'm not even ready to talk about Minnesota, certainly not talking about Chicago. Because if you don't win against Pittsburgh, none of that matters, right? That's where we are now. You don't have the luxury of thinking about you got to win all 3. No. You got to win Sunday against Pittsburgh. That's it. Then we'll get on here and we'll talk about Minnesota. But right now, it's just that. And so your destiny is still in your hands. I'm convinced if you run the table, you get in at 11-6. You're still going to have to go to Seattle or go to LA, or maybe you're going to Philly or Tampa. You're going somewhere, right? Because I don't see a way. Yeah, is there a way? There's no way. Well, maybe. The Bears have 4 losses, right? Okay. And the Packers have 4 losses, and they just lost Micah. Yeah, we're not going to do that. That's just silly to try and figure out some way to win the division and host a game. You got 6 losses. All you can control is run the table. Chicago or although if Green Bay beats Chicago and you beat Chicago, you have a tiebreaker over Chicago. But so that's we'll figure all that out later. So right now, it is what it is. Was not good today. Was not pretty, but it is what it is. We'll be fine. Go beat Pittsburgh. Got to play better. Got to run better than you did today and play better. So that's all we're doing tonight. Wasn't that fun? Might not have been the best podcast, but that's okay. Wasn't the best game. So that's how it works. Podcasting is just like games. You have good days, you have bad days. I didn't love this one. I didn't feel good about it. But there's really nothing to explain. They have to be better. I'm not sure they're good enough. Not without Kirby, not without Branch, not without Laporta. I don't know. Now, offensively, everybody can't do what the Rams did today. They just can't. Everybody's not good enough to hang 41 on our depleted defense. We're good enough to put 34 on just about anybody left. So let's go beat Pittsburgh and talk next week. How about that? All right. And the answer to your question, Andy, I'm always wearing a Lions shirt and only Lions shirts. No. Andy offered me some nonsense challenge about, I guess he wants me to wear a Bear shirt or whatever. Not going to happen. Hey, y'all have a good day, good week. We will see you guys next week, hopefully after a win over the Steelers. Appreciate you listening. Have a good one.